What's up? I'm Sylvan. Welcome back to the channel, or for the first time if you're new. And today I'm going to finally actually be reacting to all of the Myriad Celestia trailers. Last time I got a little carried away and watched the Fables About the Stars Myriad Celestia trailer, but talked about it for way too long. So if you want to check out all the things I had to say about that, check out my last video. But for this one, I am going to be actually getting through all of the other 12 Myriad Celestia trailers. Now, these are sort of interesting because of the fact that they serve a similar function to the demos in the sense that they express a lot of the characters and lore and stuff, but these have a lot more of a focus on the lore rather than just the pure spectacle of the character. And more often than not will actually be expressing real in-game lore of events and stuff, and we'll be able to see how that is the case for some of these. But to not belabor any further, I'll just be getting started. And now if you're wondering how I'm going to be looking at these, I try to look at it from both my own personal perspective of that of a day one player who's been keeping up with it since release, but I also try to, for a lot of these trailers and demos, think about what they would look like and feel like for someone who hasn't seen anything of Star Rail or has seen very little, and these trailers are being some of their main exposure to it, as I like to consider how well the game is promoting itself, I guess. But with that said, let's just get started on the first one, being History of the Xianzhou 7 Arbiter-Generals.
I regret to admit it, but the Xianzhou have very few legends. For what room is there to create legends among those who do not die?
Now, so
But
the interesting part about this one is
legend that can
it
still
technically
be recounted.
is
The story of the Cloud Knight Generals.
it technically is
Began
the
8,000 years ago,
demo trailer
when the emperor of
for
an ancient kingdom yearned for
Genuine,
both
but
legacy
in
and
reality it's more
immortality.
just about the lore
He sent
of
our Xianzhou ancestors
Xianzhou
into the
and its
astral
Arbiter-Generals,
seas.
hence the title.
And through the boundless
And
stellar reaches sailed.
That's just sort of
great
interesting
ships
to
in
me, that they
isolation
decided to start
softly
it off
veiled.
not as a specific
After
character
voyaging 2,000
demo,
years, the ships discovered traces of the divine. The plague's author revealed themselves and offered an immeasurable lifespan. But the blessing was a curse. Those who exceeded their lifespan became the deathless doom.
I don't think we've heard that term outside of this demo.
And thus the Alliance's long and peaceful years
Just grows a
were
helmet.
lost in sickness, treachery, blood, and tears. At the very precipice of the Xianzhou's existence, the Rainbow Arbiter descended and redeemed the crumbling Alliance. For the next 5,000 years, the Alliance voyaged the vast cosmos, purifying the universe under divine mandate. Heading the 6 ships were the vanguards of the hunt, the 7 Arbiter-Generals.
Yeah, okay, and now we get into like the core of
Behold at the marshal's side,
demo,
6
or
generals
trailer,
of
rather.
renown. Fierce and swift is Fei Xiao, the Merlin's claw.
I'm very curious to see if we'll actually ever see any of these other Arbiter-Generals. I feel like it would make sense.
Is Hua Yen, the flaming heart. Cautious and sophisticated is Yao Guang, the seer strategist. Mighty and powerful is Xuan Quan, the sage queller. Mysterious and fair is Yao Wu, the patina justice. Wise and brave is Jing Yuan,
And there he
the
is.
divine foresight.
Our guy.
The 7 Arbiter-Generals wield extraordinary powers. Intelligent and visionary Jing Yuan of the Law Fu is admired by friends and feared by foes.
Yeah, and then we get
with
a little
skillful
bit
sleight of hand,
direct,
the
more
trap
focus on
was
him.
set. The Borsons soon, with crushing loss, were met.
An army must be of one heart and mind, where skillful sleight of hand is little use. The Cloud Knights entrusted their lives to me. I shall not fail them.
Glory to the Xianzhou! Glory to the Cloud Knights! Glory to the Xianzhou! Glory to the Cloud Knights! The hunt is with us!
Quite the story, Master Gongshu.
Yeah, okay.
I regret
Now,
to admit.
This one's interesting. It doesn't blow me away, necessarily, but it is interesting to go through. I definitely won't have as much to say about it as I did in my last video. I'm not going to spend an hour on this. But I like this opening with it being like, yeah, well, we don't have that many legends because they're all alive still. Which is just sort of a fun thing to establish.
Who do not die.
I'd say this
one
works
distant legend
very well
that can still be
as an introduction and establishment to the Xianzhou's
it began
like concept and lore.
Ago.
And something else I'll bring up is in the Fables About the Stars Myriad Celestia trailer, we, for the hunt, had the descriptor bit that was dealing in increments of 10,000 years. Of, if I'm recalling it correctly, it was in the first 10,000 years, people like followed the hunt out of survival or whatever. And then the next 10,000 years was out of anger, and then for the third 10,000 years, it was out of the sake of the hunt itself. Now, I'm paraphrasing that, of course, but that was the, like, time frames they were talking about and the vibe that it was. So I'm actually curious to go through this and keep track of the time that they say.
Still be recounted.
Because I'm curious to see if it actually lines up and what we can get from
Knight
that.
Generals. It began 8,000.
Okay. Interesting. So we're already placing this at an interesting point with, if it began 8,000 years ago, that doesn't necessarily line up with anything related to what I was just mentioning with the hunt. But let's see. Let's see how this goes. Let's
when
see
the emperor
what
of an ancient kingdom yearned for both
because
legacy
admittedly, here
and
they
immortality.
weren't actually connected to the hunt yet. I find it interesting that the Xianzhou started as basically
After
seeking
2,000
immortality,
years,
seeking the abundance.
ships discovered curse.
Yeah, no, this is just the whole thing about the
Those who exceeded
Xianzhou
their lifespan
viewing
became
the lifespan
deathless
as a negative thing. Now, that line in particular is interesting to me because with what that's implying, it's saying that, at least what I'm gathering from it, is that people who live longer than they're supposed to become Mara-struck. But based on what we've seen in the story and stuff, it doesn't seem as explicit as like, oh, you are over the age of 100, time for you to become Mara-struck or whatever. It seems much more loose about when it actually happens, and that might just be like the implication here rather than like explicitly, if you live longer than you're supposed to, it happens like immediately, but rather just eventually it will. I sort of commented on it, but I find it funny that this guy just grows a helmet. Everything else is a little bit more progressive as well as it like sort of grows, but then it just sort of pops in. I don't know, just find that sort of funny. Anyways, he's in great shape. And then, yeah, no, everything goes to shit. But then the hunt saves them.
For the next 5,000.
Yeah, okay, so and then the next 5,000 years, the Alliance voyaged the vast cosmos. So, if I'm getting the timeline right, 8,000 years ago, the Xianzhou, at least their ancestors, went out to find eternal life or whatever. 3,000 years in, they find it, it goes terrible, and then 5,000 years ago, they're saved by the hunt, and they basically vow themselves to serve it. So that doesn't necessarily line up with any of what was in the hunt stuff in the other trailer, but I guess there is the thing to consider of the fact that the Xianzhou isn't the only group that represents the hunt. There's also the Galaxy Rangers and stuff. But it's interesting to think that only for 5,000 years has the Xianzhou been the main proponent of the hunt, despite what it was saying in the other thing being that for 10,000 years people have followed the hunt for the hunt itself rather than anger or survival. But I'm probably just looking into it too much, but maybe there's something there. But then it gets into the 7 Arbiter-Generals.
Behold at the rolls.
Yeah, so there's 7 Arbiter-Generals,
the marshal's side.
and then we only
6
are actually told
generals
about
of
6,
renown.
which is interesting, which I presume is because the
Fierce
person talking
and
is the
swift
7th,
is
but
Fei Xiao.
maybe not.
The
Yeah, and unless there's some lore that I'm not aware
strong
of,
and righteous is Hua
I
Yan,
don't think
the
we really
flaming
know
heart.
much about any of these other Arbiter-Generals, so I don't
Cautious
necessarily
and
have a ton to say
sophisticated
about them,
is Yao Guang, the
as
seer's
it's basically just
strategist.
name-dropping them all. But
Mighty and
it does make me
powerful
curious to
is
see
Shui Quan,
when we eventually
the
go back to the
sage
Xianzhou,
squatter.
if we will
Mystic
meet
Fair
some
is
of them,
your
because I
Wu,
imagine we
the
would.
patina justice.
I sort of doubt that we would just never explore
Wise and brave
anything
is
but
Jing
Jinyuan
Yuan
and the Luofu and
the
stuff.
7
Yeah, and then it just
powers.
swaps back to talking about the 7 without
Intelligent
introducing
and
the 7th.
visionary Jing Yuan of the Law
And then it just
is
hypes up
skillful
Jinyuan.
sleight of the boss.
Yeah,
One heart in
it's
mind.
interesting.
We're
But not
that their
not a
lives
ton
to me.
else to say,
I
really.
shall not fail them.
It's pretty straightforward. But now moving on to the next one, we have the Japella Rebellion, which is very much an interesting one.
Kafka.
With this one, they get a
Stellaron
lot
Hunter.
more into
How
the
do you
characters
plead?
themselves, I say.
The crimes
And
you have committed
I
are
love
beyond
the
pardon,
stylizing
but
of
the
this.
Japella Brotherhood
It's just
respects
slightly
every
different
individual's
in a way that I
entitlement to the
love.
afterlife. Admit your
I
guilt.
everything they
and
do
embrace
2D-wise, I
your
think looks
punishment.
amazing.
I'm listening.
How do the Stellaron
Oh,
hunters
God.
plead
Her
to
voice
the
is just
following
perfect.
Accusations?
I also just love the
You
entire
breached
style
the
of this demo.
premises of the Tatooine Universal Auction, manipulated the guests, decimated the artistic treasures under the gaze of a devout audience, inflicted monetary damage amounting to over 860 billion credits, and absconded with the auction item. How do you plead?
Guilty is charged, but not a devout audience.
You infiltrated the cyber prison of Inupis, stole
I love
the
how much
Sigma
this
Rod to
expands the
deactivate
lore.
the firewall, allowing a flood of data demons to enter reality, consequently propelling the world toward a judgment day, all in order to take the meta code.
I also love that they
How
never
do you
call it a Stellaron, but it always
I
is
admit
implied to
it,
be,
but
and
those
it's
data demons
explicitly said to
deserve
be
to
in the
taste of
subtitles.
freedom.
You violated the ring world Golconda, disseminated the Philosopher's poison virus across all colonies, causing 46 million inorganic entities to turn into rampant machines, and stole the steel core from Golconda's point of gravitational equilibrium, silencing the entire world. How do you plead?
Oh? Sounds like a page out of the Japella Brotherhood's playbook. But sure, we took the thing.
The Trovis disappearance. The Lore 51 Stellaron event. Cyber attacks against planet Skrullum. The Pierpoint incursion. And so on. A total of 46 criminal cases. Do you admit that all these malicious incidents were the work of the Stellaron hunters?
If you ask me, it seems like the Annihilation Gang has their
There
fingers
they
in
are.
quite a few of these pies. But I confess, it seems you forgot one though. The Japella Rebellion.
You know, it's funny. This serves as a really good trailer for Kafka. Like, an amazing trailer for Kafka. But it was also the first time we saw Sam.
Really stop
And
playing
so-
with your food.
I got so much more obsessed about it because of that.
I know.
And then we have this, like, swap of styles to have
This
just this
time?
amazing...
It's already too late.
such a good shot. I also love the music. Okay. Alright, going back through this one. I'm gonna have a little more to say about this one. So,
Stellaron
first
hunter.
off,
How do you plead?
we have it basically being a court case, her tied to a chair,
The crimes you have committed are
And
beyond pardon, but the Japella
we have the Japella Rebellion, and we have this really wild shot of these animal people in suits, red eyes, burning city behind them. And on first watch through, it's very easy to think that this is just like a wild aesthetic thing, potentially. But the city really is just burning to the ground right now, which is interesting.
Entitlement to the afterlife. Admit your guilt and embrace.
Another thing that I also find very interesting that I did not realize is the fact that the Japella Brotherhood, I believe, is an annihilation gang, which I could be wrong about, but I'm pretty sure that's the case, which I did not realize when first watching this, and that does alter how this is framed, I guess. God, yeah. No, the way she is just so tired and uninterested here is great.
How do the Stellaron hunters plead to the following accusations?
And then they just start calling her out on all of
You
the
breached the premises of the
things that the
Universal Auction,
Stellaron hunters have
manipulated
done.
Guests, decimated the artistic treasures under the gaze of a devout audience, inflicted monetary damage amounting to over 800.
Now, I don't really know what they're
credits,
talking
and
about
absconded with
in
the auction
context
money.
with
How do you plead?
the
Guilty is charged, but
thing
not
about a
without
devout audience, but I don't know. It might just be a little thing.
The cyber prison of Inupis, stole the Sigma rod.
I really like this part because this one and the next one have a lot of random jargon in there, but it really paints a picture of how major some of the stuff that Kafka has done is. Like, data demons sound amazing. I really am interested in those. And it's doing a great job, once again, this one and the next one especially, of showing how dedicated to gathering the Stellarons the Stellaron hunters are, for whatever reason, which is really interesting, because they are willing to propel things towards Judgment Days, result in countless people dying, silencing worlds, as they'll say later. And it just puts them in a really interesting spot, as throughout the story, they very much haven't really been the true antagonists ever. But they're not the good guys. And I love that. I love morally complicated characters.
I admit it, but those data demons deserve a taste of freedom.
And I love how blasé she is
You
about it.
violated the ring world Golconda, disseminated the Philosopher's poison virus across all colonies, causing 46 million inorganic entities to turn into rampant machines, and stole the steel core from Golconda's point of gravitational equilibrium, silencing the entire world.
Yeah, no, so once again, a lot of jargon there, but I mean, it all works. It sounds
like
crazy.
A page out of the Japella Brotherhood's playbook,
And she
but
basically just
sure,
calls
we'll
them
take the
out,
thing.
and they just list out a few more.
The Lore 51 Stellaron event.
And I'm pretty sure we've
Cyber
heard
attacks
about
against planet
some
Skrull.
of these in
The
other
Beer Point
contexts.
incursion.
Just
And
not
so
a
on.
ton about them.
A total of 46
And,
criminal-
my god, 46 criminal cases. And if all of these are related to Stellarons, even if they didn't necessarily get a Stellaron in all of those, that implies a Stellaron was involved, but I imagine they at least have gotten their hands on, through this, like, the majority of those Stellarons. So they just have a fuck ton of Stellarons somewhere for some purpose. And it's so, it interests me so much.
cases. Do you admit
so curious.
all these malicious incidents were the work of the Stellaron hunters?
If you ask me, it seems like the Annihilation Gang has their fingers in.
Now, if I'm right about recalling that they are an Annihilation Gang, the Japella Brotherhood is, then this is a interesting thing, because she's basically just once again calling them out, but it is interesting. And when I first saw this, it made me think that Sam had connections to the Annihilation Gangs.
Quite a few of these pies, but I confess, it seems you forgot one though.
And then she's just like, yeah, joke's on you, this is number 47. Which I love. But this brings us to actually something very interesting. This visual here, and then the next shot here,
the Japella Rebellion.
of this entire time, they haven't been within their right mind. This has all been just Kafka messing with them, basically. She used her powers to take control of them, assumably, and is just having fun, having a court case against herself, basically, for whatever reason, just for the shits and giggles of it, I guess. and only now lets them go to realize that their entire city is in flames and have Sam just wipe them out. And then they just stand here and watch as everything falls apart. Clearly they incited some kind of rebellion.
You should really stop playing
And
with your food,
Sam
Kafka.
criticizes Kafka on her way of going about things, which, spoilers for Penacony in case you care about that. Now that we know Sam is Firefly and Firefly is Sam or whatever, and how Firefly has seemed to act throughout the story, it makes a lot of sense that she's the one to be like, what the fuck are you doing, Kafka? That's way too far. There's just so many things on so many levels here. And I love Silverwolf and Blade in their, like, suits and stuff. Who gave Silverwolf a gun? And once again, there's the cat, who may or may not be Elio, and I'm so curious to learn if that is ever revealed to be the case.
This time?
And I would absolutely love if
It's
Elio
already
became
too
playable,
late.
but was still just a cat. But yeah, no, and this shot is amazing. I love it. With that, though, moving on to the next one, we have History of the Xianzhou, Exodus of the Five Dragons. Another History of the Xianzhou.
I have traversed great lengths.
So obviously
seeking a
this
piece
one
of
is
history,
about
the history
Dan Heng,
of Long the Permanence.
but it also,
I too
once again,
know little of the progenitor of all
is
dragons.
more about Long the
Before
Permanence.
the dawn of history, Long traversed the burgeoning chaos, seeking the answer to existence. And on that path, the revelation of the permanence was unraveled. Then
And it's
came
really
our
interesting
emergence, us,
to
Long Scions.
hear more about
I visited
Long,
Liaris, a world encircled
Given
by 5 suns.
that
The
they
giant
aren't
dragon
around
sat
anymore.
overseeing the turning of
They're
day
dead.
and night, the change of seasons, sheltering the lives within. Could the revelation of the permanence signify the timeless nature of one's greatness?
The relentless pursuit of individual
I actually really
immortality
like
will
how
breed an unending multitude of malevolent
there's multiple
creatures,
different voices,
such as
multiple
the
different
fallacy
people,
of the plague's author.
like,
So then
theorizing
does the permanence represent the continuance of bloodline? I also
theorizing
journeyed to the ancestral
the
home of the
purpose
Infernal
of
people in the
the
land
path
white
of
embers.
permanence.
The undead dragon Typhon's breath showered flames on the land below, bringing forth a flourishing lineage.
Long scions are dispersed throughout countless worlds, living in solitude. In the vastness of the universe, the rise and fall of one race is of little consequence.
It is said that the Vidyadhara formed an alliance with the Xianzhou, and that 5 elders descended upon the mortal realm to keep watch over the plague moths. Perhaps the permanence is the noble ambition that ensures the safety of the universe.
Alas, Imbibitor Lunae forsook his oath, causing a state of great disorder. The High Elders too bear mortal frailties, their heavy burdens ultimately becoming the shackles which bind them.
From your perspective, what does the permanence's revelation truly signify?
As the sun and moon rise and fall, the world undergoes continuous change. So the concept of stability is meaningless. Only by comprehending and aligning with the way of the world can one's path lead to everlasting existence. Countless new creations emerge when one dragon meets its end among the morning stars. For the Vidyadhara, this is the true teaching of the permanence. Within the cycle of life, any endpoint may mark the inception of a new journey. And for him, it is no different.
Nice. So, once again, this is basically a bit of a history lesson, so I don't necessarily have a ton to say about it other than cool lore, but let's see what we can find in here. Something I like a lot about this is it does a lot of almost philosophical discussion about the nature and purpose of the permanence of a dead Aeon, which is really interesting to
Great
me.
lengths, seeking a...
I find it interesting that Long has scions, as
was unraveled.
that is an interesting legacy for an Aeon to have, for there to actually be effectively descendants. For a lot of these, I think I'd have to really think a lot more about them to fully break down what is trying to be got at, but I will spare you another hour-long video about a few-minute-long trailer, as I feel like a lot of these are less so meant to be fully developed philosophies and ways of thought, and more so theories about the permanence.
The undead dragon Typhon's breath showered flames on the land
I'm
below,
so excited
bringing forth a flourishing
to know that there's an undead dragon.
Scions are dispersed throughout.
I like the fact that we have what, in all possibility, could be either another Elder or another predecessor of Donhong's. Maybe it's Donfeng there, but who knows.
From your perspective, what does the permanence's revelation...
And then we get to this point of, rather than continuing to theorize, whoever is talking decides to just simply ask this person, who evidently seems to be a person with a deep understanding of it, potentially another Elder, what permanence means to them.
truly signify.
As the sun and moon
And we
rise and
get
fall,
our answer.
the world undergoes continuous change.
In the form of basically them talking over the High Elder introductions, similar to how the introductions of the Arbiter-Generals was done, but in a slightly different manner. So I'm going to just read these out to see what we can get from them. Galorum Venti. Venti? High Elder of the Yaoqing? Successor of the Winged Dragon, Sovereign of Storms, bound to watch over the lunar embryo. Okay. Arden's Regia, High Elder of Zhuming, Successor of the Horned Dragon, Wielder of the Heavenly Flame, bound to watch over the Primordial Flame. Yeah, okay. So, pretty much just little lore blurbs about each of these, but still like to read them, because we might run into some of these at some point. Glaciator Mara, High Elder of the Fenghu. I'm bad with Chinese names. Successor of the Scaled Dragon, Tamer of the Ebbing Frost, bound to watch over the miniature myriads. Mons Grandis, High Elder of the Yuque, Successor of the Terrestrial Dragon, Ponderer of the Congealed Silence, bound to watch over the fallow earth. Yeah, so we got some elemental shit going on here.
Within the
And
cycle of
those
life,
are all the ones that
any
they give
endpoint may
in that
mark the
sense.
inception.
Now, there's a couple things I actually want to catch in all of this. I want to actually look at what
upon the mortal realm.
is actually being said, rather than just focusing on the visuals.
Perhaps the permanence is the
Because I want to see
ambition that
what
ensures
the
safety of the universe.
actual answer
elders
that is
to
given
their
to the
mortal
purpose
frailties,
of the
their
permanence
heavy
is.
Perspective. What does the permanence's revelation truly signify?
As the sun and moon rise and fall, the world undergoes continuous change. So the concept of stability is
Okay,
meaningless.
stability is
Only
meaningless.
by comprehending and aligning with the way of the world can one's path lead to everlasting existence.
Okay.
Countless new creations emerge when one dragon meets its end among the morning stars.
Huh.
For the Vidyadhara, this is the true teaching of the permanence.
Okay. So, the concept of stability isn't real, as the world is undergoing continuous change. It has no meaning, and only by comprehending and aligning with the way of the world can one lead to everlasting existence. Okay. So, it's basically saying the world is ever changing, so you have to ensure your continued existence, understand how the world is changing and to align with that change. That's what I'm getting from that. Which,
lead to everlasting.
I mean, yeah, fair. Get with the times. Don't get bogged down in tradition just for the sake of tradition. Now, I am curious if that is what they actually mean, and if it is, I could very easily see some hypocrisy going on there. Like, we don't necessarily have a ton of precedent to say that what happened with Don Feng and stuff was just going against tradition rather than actually having negative impacts or whatever, which we can sort of see the negative impacts with Blade and stuff, but regardless, if some of the issue there is with, like, a breach of tradition or whatever, then that potentially is an interesting bit of potential hypocrisy there. Now, it also might not be, because if that just is a bad thing and that piece of tradition is a good thing to maintain, then, I mean, then that doesn't need to be changed. But I could very much see that being a subject that comes up at some point. The idea of eternally needing to keep in line with the world and how it ever changes, and follows or the permanence, like the High Elders or whatever, saying that but not necessarily following through it, that's a very classic kind of potential plot point that could be landed on. I'd be curious to see if that's a thing that ever happens.
This point may mark the inception of a new journey. And for him, it is no.
Yeah, so an end point becoming the beginning of a new journey, completely in line with the rebirth, reincarnation stuff going on here. And I like how here we have, I believe, Don Feng, because the outfit isn't the same as Don Heng's.
Different.
And then we have, in the reflection becoming clear, I believe that is Don Heng, Imbiber Lune form, of course, but I believe that is Don Heng, because I think the outfit is different and in line with his outfit, which is just a great visual thing to show the old version who is changed, but then in their reflection, the next version of them, basically, Don Heng. That's really cool to me. But other than that, don't really have much more to say about that. I'm really curious how any of this will become relevant in the future, but let's continue. Continuing in the Xianzhou, we have Cloud Knight's martial doctrine on swords.
Curiosity.
This is an
What
interesting one.
drove you to pick up the sword at such a young age?
I like the framing of this.
Well, I suppose there's no harm in telling you. At first, it was the General's stories about the previous sword champion. He told me about her unparalleled skills, her unmatched prowess with a single blade. It inspired me that one day I could earn the title myself.
So, it was the allure
Oh,
of
boy.
renown.
I also wanted to live up to the General's expectations and repay him for the gift of his teachings. Where would I be without him?
Then you wish to forge
I
deeper
love
ties.
all of the mirroring
It's more
between
than
these
that.
characters.
One day, I'll run into battle alongside my Cloud Knight comrades, defending the Lawfu and striking down those who threaten us, putting my abilities to their rightful use.
In the end, it all comes back to fealty.
What's with all the questions, miss? Why did you choose the path of the sword?
I too was once shackled by fame and fortune, impeded by bonds and loyalty. But in the end, the sword moves beyond such notions. For the sword is just a sword, an instrument determining life and death. Nothing can tarnish its essence. Only when you've walked the fiery trail and cut through every impediment can you understand the purpose behind every swing of your sword. Do you understand now, future sword champion? I wield the sword to vanquish my enemies, nothing more. And now, our battle begins.
Yeah! In case you can't tell, I love this trailer. By the fucking big smile on my face. Alright, yeah, so going through it, less to say than the previous few, just because this is definitely more a character-driven thing than a lore-driven thing, but it still has a lot of nice merit to it. So just going through it, I really like the framing of
my curiosity. What drove you to pick up the sword
asking
at such a young age?
Yangqing basically
Well, I suppose there's no harm in telling you.
his purpose for wielding a sword,
It was the general stories about the previous
and
sword champion.
how
He told me about her unparalleled
everything
skills,
comes
her
down
unmatched prowess with
to
a single
her past,
blade.
basically, to
It
Jing Liu's
inspired me that
past.
one day I could earn the title
Whether
myself.
it's her legend,
So, it
which
was the allure of renown.
inspires him,
I also wanted
or
to live up to the general's expectations.
the
and repay
mirroring
him for the
of
gift his teachings. Where would I be
trying to
without him?
repay
Then you wish to
his
forge
master,
deeper ties.
which Jing Yuan did
more than that.
to Jing Liu,
One
I
day,
guess
I'll
in the
run into
form
that.
of what we saw in a flash, that animation, which is sort of sad, but, you know. And then we, of course, get
Alongside
here
my Cloud Knight comrades,
aspiring
defending the
to
and striking down those
prove
who
his
threaten us,
fealty
putting my abilities to
in the
their
same way
rightful
that Jing
use.
Liu did. But
In the end, it all comes back to fealty.
all of these are things that
What's with all the questions,
Jing Liu
miss?
once
Why did
understood
you
or
choose the path of the sword?
believed in, but has now moved
I
past.
too was once shackled by fame
As she
and
says
fortune,
here.
impeded by bonds and loyalty.
I love the art style here,
But in
and
the end, the sword.
this part always just gives me chills. I love it. I love the art style. I love how it goes, it like changes aspect ratio. It just becomes this really dramatic, stylized thing as
Sword is
she just
a
goes,
sword, an
fuck having a
instrument
reason.
determining life
A
and
sword is a
death.
sword. It
Nothing can
kills.
tarnish its
That is
essence.
all. I love it. And
Only when you've walked
she
the fiery trail
holds
and
firm
cut through every
that
impediment can you
once everything
understand
else
the
is cut
purpose
away,
behind every swing of your sword.
you will understand the purpose of a sword, like she does. And you can be one with that.
Do you understand
existing
now, future
just
sword champion?
for the sake of
I wield the sword to vanquish
killing.
my enemies. Nothing more.
That being your purpose, just like the sword you wield.
And now, our battle begins.
It's so cool. And I'm so annoyed that I haven't gotten her. She's one of the few characters I failed to get. Oh, God. But I'll spare you guys of my gushing any further and move on to a very different Myriad Celestia trailer. As we're beginning to move away from the Xianzhou and more towards some other stuff. Interastral Peace Tour Selection, Planning, and Opportunity.
Yes, you! Wait for
So,
it. The gem filled with endless
this, of course, is
potential.
essentially
Hold on to your hats.
Topaz's
The IPC's gem identification system will ensure that each and
Myriad
every talent you
Celestia trailer.
possess will be harnessed for intergalactic peace.
And
You have the thrill of adventure coursing through your veins.
I love that
So,
Albert is the
our
one
marketing development department is
that
rolling out
is
the red
narrating
carpet
this.
just for you. With the nameless Oswaldo Schneider leading the way, a vast number of new worlds will soon be a part of our expansive credit system. If you're someone who values structure and logic, our business consolidation department offers the perfect stage for you to shine.
I love that this is
With products
basically just a
twinkling
pitch
like
video for
million
joining the
stars.
IPC.
This department has created a spectacular trade network that's measured in light years. Heard of hyper-distant delivery systems and synesthesia beacons? Was once science
Those were some
fiction,
words.
now reality. Proudly produced by the IPC. Got an idea that's nothing short of genius? Look no further. Our technology department is waiting for you. Join us and team up with the Intelligentsia Guild. When the glitters of fortune and title dim before the luminous path of the Amber Lord, know that the building material logistics department is the sanctuary for the most ardent of followers. Become the cornerstone of our operations. Every stone you place with precision plays a pivotal role. Grit will form the backbone of our formidable subspace barrier. If you're someone whose qualities go beyond the ordinary, unyielding in the harshest of storms, this message is for you. At the Strategic Investment Department, talent is the most precious investment of all. Origin, background, irrelevant. Diamond seeks out the unique and the extraordinary. Those who sit at the table will determine where the wealth pours. The Talent Motivation Department isn't just another division. It's a shining beacon of empowerment. Top talent deserves top perks, and that's why the Talent Motivation Department was established. Every task you undertake serves as the pioneering spark that sets Pierpoint's passion ablaze. For those seasoned in their craft and still holding on to cherished dreams, our operations are as everlasting as the sway of ocean tides along the shore. Witness the traditional project department's great supervisor, Arita, ready to capture the treasures the tide unveils. Take the leap, join our ranks, and climb to unparalleled heights. Shape the destinies of myriad worlds, and make the history of the galaxy your very own footnote. The mighty hammer of the Amber Lord has struck. A realm of endless opportunities beckons. We're waiting for you.
All right, yeah, cool. So, I don't have as much to say about this one necessarily, because it is basically, like I said, just a pitch video for you to join the IPC. So, I'll more so just sort of take this as an opportunity to talk about how I'm really interested in the IPC and how consistently relevant it ends up being, as it seems to pretty much be the predominant faction in the galaxy or universe or whatever. Like, they are incredibly widespread. And it's sort of wild. And given how many different, like, departments and stuff they have, there's gonna be so many characters that come from the IPC over time. It's just sort of wild. Yeah, and then here we have the Strategic Investment Department, which has all the gems, which... oh boy, there's Diamond, there's all the others. Yeah. So, I don't think I actually realized, but based on what this is sort of implying, all of the, like, major figures like Topaz and Adventurine and Jade and Diamond and stuff, I guess are all part of just the Strategic Investment Department. Which makes me really curious how many characters we're going to get from the other departments, or if this is sort of the main focus point of the IPC character-wise. But regardless,
at the Strategic Investment Department,
a very solid allusion to the fact that all those characters are there.
Diamond seeks out the unique and the
yeah, and when they go, when Albert says origin background irrelevant, I just immediately think of Aventurine and his whole backstory. Oh god, yeah, this is nice. I don't have nearly as much to say about it as I said, but it's fun. I love that they have just like pets and stuff on handle, and yeah, no, it's just a really fun and aesthetically strong thing. But not really much more than that, in my mind at least for what we know now. But yeah, so with that, to the next one, which is a bit of a different vibe. We return to the Xianzhou, but this time for an exorcism at Fyxetroll Garden. Now this one, I feel like is
when the Xianzhou
when they start
to they inevitably made strange beings.
Be
so lots of
even more focused on the characters themselves. Some of the previous ones were, but they also were much more lore-based.
Judge received a decree ordering her to subdue a demon.
Excuse me? You won. Where are your manners?
This is so goofy.
Huh? The compass? It can't be. You, the new one.
I love how they use the sisters in this to just scare Ho-Ho.
Careful. Are you okay? Let me help you up.
Knock, knock. The door isn't gonna hold much longer. Knock, knock. The door's coming down.
You asked for a spooky tale to grow some guts, didn't you? This is what you faced on your first day. Why are you shaking in your boots?
The tail's great.
That's enough courage training for today.
Where do you think you're going? It ain't over yet.
Yeah, no, this one's just very cute. It, like, doesn't really give much lore, but it's just so cute. I love it.
Stories.
I love the art style. I actually, to mention this now, I love how diverse the art style is between a lot of these. Like, there's a lot of aesthetic consistency between them, but I love the stylistic choices that they take with each one to make it unique. Yeah.
Can't be.
You.
Oh god, yeah. I think my favorite moment here is that when she just splits in half. Oh god, that's fun. I love that. But yeah, I don't think there's really much else here, though. It's a pretty straightforward one. So, moving on, we have Transcendent Ruan Tunes, Blushing May Blooms.
Mother, your letters are always welcome.
The
plum blossoms bloom and wither.
So intrigued
and
by
I
Ruan May.
occasionally catch a scent of loneliness. I once
He's such
again
an
am
interesting
thinking back
character
to
to
the
me.
research in my childhood, together with you in No Man's Land. That comfy cabin, teeming with boundlessly joyous forms of life. Those days are unforgettable.
I want to know what this thing is.
Of the universe
What is it? It's an eldritch horror, and I love it.
than every other kid around me.
It's waking up!
Oh god, the music always gives me chills.
Lamenting the process of life is the origin of my thinking. I began to realize that I longed for something pure. Attachment involves the insular cortex, which controls anxiety and pain. The laws of emotion can be easily broken down. Children will become more well-behaved when they receive random rewards. When I discovered how easy it was to cultivate a planet, I began to feel empty. I increasingly understand that I long for more fundamental research. Recently, I've had some different thoughts.
Ruan is such a headache.
At first, I was terrified of its appearance. It is born of wonder, does not resist, and does not grieve. It is the closest thing to the feeling I had when I was a child.
This is my favorite part, easily.
It asked me, where does the research end? Life is so colorful, but it has nothing to do with me.
This entire shot here feels like it should be part of a demo, like an actual character trailer, not a Myriad Celestia trailer, and I love it for that.
If life is cultivated and reproduced, you can dissect remembrance, control equilibrium, deconstruct beauty, and reproduce permanence. I will understand life and touch on these conceptions. And perhaps I, too, can become an
What did she say? God. In my mind, this is one of the most unique Myriad Celestia trailers.
Worry not, my dear assistant. I will reward you.
God, it's so good. Oh, boy. And now with these, we're starting to also get the unique end things. Oh, it's so good. Alright, so, going through this one again, as largely just because I want to. I really like the style of this one.
Welcome. Scent of loneliness.
I like how it opens as basically a letter to her
my
mother.
Childhood, together with you in no man's land. That comfy cabin, teeming with boundlessly joy.
I am
I
so
understood the vastness
intrigued
of the
by
universe
this.
too early. I was different.
Like, very much what this gives me the vibes of, with the line, I understood the vastness of the universe too early, I was different than every other kid around me, alongside the visuals of this thing, it almost gives me the vibe of, like I mentioned, this is like an eldritch horror type thing, and almost as if, in witnessing it, she gained access to impossible knowledge, like knowledge beyond what humans are meant to comprehend, and it made her different. But I don't know, I might be just applying my own thoughts to that, but that's what it's always made me think of.
I understood the vastness of the universe too early.
I love the music in all of this, and I love all of these visuals around her.
Lamenting the process began to feel empty.
Something about this trailer just is amazing to me. I don't know why. Just something about it just itches my brain in the right way.
Recently, I've had some different
Like,
thoughts.
it's in large part this trailer that got me to pull for her, other than the fact that she's just a really solid character.
It is born of eye-exploiting.
This is such a wild shot for a Myriad Celestia trailer. They just said, fuck it, we're not worrying about just being 2D, we go full 3D.
If life is cultivated and reproduced...
Yeah, and then here she's basically saying that if she can find answers she's seeking, we don't need the Aeons, we can make it
I will
ourselves.
understand life and touch on these conceptions.
And I find it
perhaps I,
interesting
too,
how many things are in quotations throughout this. Like, almost as if she's dealing more with the concepts themselves rather than the things the words represent. Which is interesting. And I'm so curious what she says here, but I have no idea. I think I've heard some people theorize that maybe she's saying become an Aeon or something like that. But I don't know. It's hard to say. And I find it sort of funny and goofy that there is just literally in-game gameplay of just the Trailblazers getting fucked up, and then she's like, don't worry, I got you, and it then shows her simulated universe thing. It's just fun. I like it.
I will reward you.
It's really fun. I like it a lot. But I'm gonna stop gushing about it and move on. As we now... we have reached Penacony! And now we get the first since the Fables About the Stars Myriad Celestia trailer that isn't about a specific character. Being a Knight of Everflame, Scene 33.
Penacony,
This
planet of festivity.
trailer single-handedly spiked my hype for
Drowning in
Penacony
dreams,
massively.
A haven for the cowardly. The family has summoned
They did
guests
Duke
for its
Inferno
grand
so dirty.
The golden blood will flow.
The visuals are
destruction
insane for this.
As an offering to them. Children of the flame, this marks your rite of passage. Akash, I lit a fire in your eyes and showed you music of the strings. Serenade the celebration and hush the harmony into muted awe.
It will be done, Father.
Dubra, I set your form alight and taught you mastery of the blade. Temper it with sulfur, main the elation, and let the performer's blood and tears pour into the abyss.
As you wish, Father.
Everything about this is so solid.
I
It's just
kindled a flame in your heart and granted you blood of fire. Use your wrath to shatter the preservation sanctum and build their gold to create a statue of our savior.
You got it, old man.
And Constance at last. My most ambitious and exceptional child. There is nothing more to teach you. Just remember, without Penacony's midnight hour, strip away all they hold dear, and leave naught but the remembrances too.
She won't be necessary. I
God.
can take them alone.
Katarina, a little pessimism might be wise. What if we all end up dead?
Jesus.
Since when have those on the path of destruction feared death?
Still, it is wise to plan ahead, Father.
God, I love the puppet child.
What is our fallback if things become perilous?
Fall back. Such a thing does not exist. Destruction is brave yet heroic. To cling to life is to delay in cowardice. Relish Penacony, savor its invitation. Prepare this beautiful dream to welcome its new master from Fedora. Ifrit, Duke Inferno, Everflame Mansion.
Alright, yeah, let's go back through it.
Planet of festivity.
So,
a cradle drowning in dreams, a haven for the
God, they did Ifrit so dirty.
The family has summoned guests for its...
So, to open this with, I'd say my biggest question with this, having now done some of the story, but not having finished the Penacony story, I am so curious if this entire trailer is just a massive bait and switch, or if Ifrit's children will be relevant to the story ever. Presumably at some point they might be, assuming they aren't all dead. We only have confirmation on Ifrit. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in Penacony, or at the very least some point in the story, the various children become a big deal. Because, I mean, you do not give us characters that look like this,
I can take them alone.
or
Katarina,
like
a little
this.
Pessimism might be wise.
You do not make full character designs for stuff like this, and then just go, nah, we're not using them. These won't be characters.
Since when have those on the path of
Which, I mean, like, sure, I guess to compare to Genshin, there's the 4 Yaksha that never actually have become a thing, but, I mean, this is different, because if they are alive, and if they weren't just all killed by Acheron, then there's plenty of reason for them to get back involved, because they'd have a bone to pick with Acheron, I'd imagine. They would probably want her dead. And I wouldn't be surprised if they'd want to fuck up Penacony to fulfill the basically last wishes of their father Ifrit. God, yeah. But on top of that, I'm just like, would they bother setting up the details of how each of the children has their own task, and each one is basically going to be trying to destroy one of the various paths, or at least members of those paths on Penacony. Because it's not just the harmony that's being gone after.
Hush the harmony into muted awe.
it's like there's the harmony, and then there's also the elation,
with sulfur.
and then I believe, yeah, the preservation.
Fire. Gold to create a ambitious and exceptional child. There is nothing more to teach you. Just remember, without Peliconi's midnight hour, strip away all they hold dear.
Yeah, like, I find it hard to imagine that this is purely a bait and switch. I have to think this might just be a ton of massive cope or hope from me, but I have to imagine that this will lead to something other than just the bait and switch. And I'm fine with it not being Penacony that it happens, but something has to happen here. I've accepted that Ifrit's dead, but, I mean, come on. Even if they're not playable, we need something related to these characters. God.
Since when have those on the path of destruction feared death?
You can't just throw this dude at me or like the Grim Reaper puppet child in my face and then say you're not getting that.
What is our fallback if things become perilous?
I'm holding out hope. I'm holding out hope. Give me the Grim Reaper. I need it. God, but yeah. Oh, I'll stop myself there. I won't just keep repeating myself. That's really all there is to this. Is I'm just hoping beyond hope that these 4 characters actually come into relevance at some point and aren't just a massive fuck you to the entire fan base. Yeah. Moving on, though, back to characters. We have a revisiting of past dreams. Black Swans. This one's fun.
Dazzling item.
I haven't
Are you looking for
I haven't
its
gone
owner?
back and watched this one much.
Allow me to divine, using your memories as a medium.
Oh, Aventurine cameo. Gallagher cameo. I have a feeling we're probably just going to get a cameo of every character. Like I said, I haven't looked at this one nearly as closely. Oh, Spotted Firefly. Sparkle. Okay, Robin and Sunday. Oh, Acheron.
The truth does not lie. Neither do memories.
Yeah.
Predestined paths have already converged. She has arrived.
Yeah. Oh, I did not realize.
Menacing infernal fire absorbed by the vast, profound sea. And that sea surprisingly dwells on the planet of festivities.
Oh my god, they had this all planned out way more than I thought. Okay, going back through this. So yeah, we have the sort of framework here.
Are you looking for its owner?
But really
Allow
more
me
so
to
serves
divine.
for
Using your memories as a medium.
Just a lot of really interesting stuff. Lots of cameos of the people around. Oh, I also noticed Misha there just now. Makes sense. But yeah. The other thing here is it just allows for some really fun and cute stuff of Black Swan just being in different outfits and stuff. I love her just traversing the memories like this. Yeah, and we get Firefly there. I don't think anyone's in this shot. But also this is just an amazing way to show off Penacony. Okay, yeah, so we of course have right here Sparkle coming across the screen. Yeah, okay, and then she just changes outfit. For a second I thought it might have been like a Trailblazer-esque outfit, but no. It was just the coloration. Yeah. And then nice cute shot here. Some 3D elements. A little awkward, but I think they work. And nice transition. Okay. Some just nice little dancing. And yeah. I love that it turns into a Black Swan, the like pet that she's holding. And oh, we have the hawk. Well, not the hawk. We have the bird that is the Dreamkeeper or whatever. Just to remind, or establish rather, I'm recording this between having played part of the 2.2 story, but not all of it. Look forward to that video when it comes out. But, oh yeah, that's a nice little hint towards that as well. Yeah, then we just get to the end here with this. Now, I'm trying to decide if this is something that Acheron did, or if this is meant to be, from a timeline perspective, when the Trailblazer crash lands here. Because I could see that, but there's much more of a reaction from people here than there was in the actual game, so maybe not. But maybe. Either way,
the truth.
It allows for the final cameo of Acheron and stuff.
Do memories.
And I love how this cracks here, and she shatters to show all of these different fragments. We have Aventurine, we have Acheron, we have Firefly, we have Ifrit. Basically, like all the major players, we have Sparkle there. I'm actually curious to see. Can we make out any other characters in the other shards? Oh? Is that someone? Not sure who that is in this one. Yeah, I don't know. At the very least, those are the main ones that are to be made out, though. And I love that it just draws back to... This all just happened as she, like, took the card back, basically.
She has arrived.
And it's like, yep, nope, everything's already solved itself. And this part is really interesting to me. She has the cards of essentially the key players, I guess, being Sparkle, Acheron, Aventurine, Firefly, Duke Inferno, and Robin. Which makes me very intrigued, because Sparkle is among those, meaning that she definitely is going to have some bullshit she pulls at some point in the story. I know she's already setting that up, but very curious to see how that plays out. And I did not pick up on this when I first saw this, because I haven't really watched this since Black Swan came out. I obviously had no real reason to, but I find it really interesting that that card
absorbed by the vast
just burns up. And I wonder if that is signifying that he either just died, or is about to die, or had already died, and just when she was looking at the cards it happened. But either way, that is some incredible foreshadowing of that. Which, that's great. I love that.
Profound to see. And that's the surprisingly
this is a really solid
the planet
trailer, I'd say.
Festivities.
As it simultaneously serves as a nice sort of casual look at Penacony and a nice little introduction for Black Swan, but also works amazingly as a foreshadowing to a lot of the plot lines of the story, which I just love when they're able to do that. But continuing on, we have Sparkle behind the curtain. Yeah, Sparkle behind the curtain. I find it wild that this is what she used to look like.
It doesn't matter who I am off stage. All the audience needs to know is that when I'm on stage, I'm just Sparkle. It's you, my beloved mask.
God.
When I'm happy, you're smiling too. When I'm angry, you're still smiling. When I'm sad, you keep on smiling. You're like a veil that I can hide under. The one wearing the veil, that's Sparkle. It's you, my beloved mask. When I'm happy, you're smiling too.
I love
When I'm angry,
this whole thing,
you're screaming
this whole gimmick here.
When I'm sad, you're crying too. You're like a mirror, showing my reflection. The one in the mirror, that's Sparkle. It's you, my beloved mask. When I'm happy, you're screaming. When I'm angry, you're crying. When I'm sad, you're smiling. You're like a face staring at me. I'm not Sparkle. No, I am Sparkle. So,
Chills.
Again. When I realized life was just a play, I wanted to leave the stage. Because off stage, there's an even bigger stage. What do you say? Who's the real Sparkle?
Sparkle! Who are you? Oh boy. Alright. Yeah, so it's hard to necessarily parse out a ton of actual, like, lore or logic behind this, but there is still a lot to this. I love how we have these little secret things in the subtitles of
Offstage.
It starts here with Sparkle premiere performance, and it sort of works to frame each of the increments of her describing who the real Sparkle is.
I'm just Sparkle.
Because with this first one,
it's you, my beloved
with the first mask, it's for the premiere performance. Regardless
too.
of her emotion, it maintains its veiled smile and will not allow her emotion to change.
You keep on smiling.
But then
You're like...
we get to Sparkle showing number 99, so nearly 100 shows later, and her definition of who Sparkle is has changed, as has the mask a little.
When I'm happy, you're
It now
smiling
reflects
too.
her emotions. It is not
When I'm angry, you're
veil to
screaming
hide
too.
her emotions, but rather a mirror to
When I'm
reflect.
sad, you're crying too. You're like a mirror. In the mirror, that's Sparkle.
And then we get to Sparkle showing at number 990, nearly 1,000 later. And once again, her definition has changed into something a bit more crazed.
Mask.
Something a bit more unhinged.
You're screaming. When I'm angry?
Her mask's emotions don't match hers. They
When I'm sad,
contrast
you're
and conflict
smiling.
against hers.
You're like a face staring at me.
Something
I'm not
that
Sparkle.
creates a contradiction.
I am Sparkle.
It's really interesting.
So,
And I really like the idea of this representing her devolving into whatever madness or whatever, as the idea of she was a performer. She had a mask that she wore to establish a stage presence of a specific kind. Over time, as she became in tune with that, she was able to control the mask's emotions to match hers, or potentially the other way around, of the mask being controlling her, until eventually she's sort of lost sight of it all, and everything is in this weird chaotic mess of the small stage that she's stuck on is one that does not reflect her, but also simultaneously does to a degree. But as she says,
when I
she realized
life
was just a play.
I wanted to leave the stage.
And so she went to the true stage, which is
Because
beyond
offstage,
everything.
There's an even bigger stage. What do you say?
And
Who's the
then she
real
embraces the
Sparkle?
fact of there may not be a specifically real Sparkle. Maybe it's all of them, maybe it's none of them. Maybe there is one, but it's never the shown one. Either way, she now knows that everything is just a play, and that she's just a character in it, and she's out to make the most interesting performance she can, I suppose. And I just love that. I love this as essentially an origin story for her, and it really paints how crazy she is. And I love it. The last thing I'll mention about the trailer is I like all of these little scenes that she's puppeting, and I'll make a personal note of this one down in the corner, given that this is literally just a light cone, and I think that's a fun little inclusion. But yeah, moving on to the second to last one, we have Kyoden, a cleave across the transient world. As someone who's played Honkai,
still remember
this is
why
insane to me
Izumo
as a
forged
trailer.
these blades?
I'll get into it on the second go-through, but just know, this shit's crazy.
Because in times past, when the Yao Yorozu no Kami descended here, they wrought death and disaster on this world and its people. To save the world, Izumo splintered 70,033 blades and forged them into the 12 Sentinels. The first was truth, forged by the Sovereign of Revelation. It could teach mortals the way of the law and create miracles from the deconstruction of all things. The second was Sky, forged by the Eternal Seas. It could form a barrier from the firmament and prevent the innumerable gods of misery from passing through. The third was Howl, able to summon lightning to rend the heavens and meteors to rain down divine punishment. The fourth was Mist, able to break earth and tear cloud with biting wind and rain. The fifth was Frost, freezing the land in an instant. The sixth was Fate, the restless cycle of life and death. Then there was Flare, Thought, Root, Form, Bind, Maw. With those sentinels, we seized on tomorrow's expectation, winning victory after victory, until...
All of them were broken.
God.
The price of every victory was a world in its entirety. And in the end, that entirety was lost. And so Izumo splintered 12 sentinels and forged them into 2 bearers. The first was origin. The second was end. The world forged 70,047 blades, and only one could save Izumo. But you and I both know the road to salvation does not exist. There is no trace of tomorrow. Resisting the Kamigami, humanity will eventually become Oni. We pawned everything, all for the destruction of two worlds. In times past, Takamagahara, upon which the Kami descended, was surely as beautiful as Izumo. So, do you still remember why Izumo forged these blades?
Because of a lie. An end that never existed. We long since strode into their shadow. Each step forward one that we can never walk back. Until the last blade is forged into... not.
God.
I knew this world was fleeting. And yet...
Oh my god! It's so good! I can't get over it. Oh, Jesus. The end of that always gets me. I fucking can't get through that without even just at least tearing up a little. In large part, it's because of my experience with Honkai Impact 3rd, but still. God, okay. So, to go through this, I want to draw a line through this and its connections to Impact 3rd. I'll try to be as non-spoilery as possible for people who haven't played or seen the story of Impact 3rd, but it's something that I've seen not enough people talk about from a reaction standpoint, and I just need to acknowledge it.
Do you still remember?
First off,
why
just
Izumo forged these blades?
Everything about this is amazing. The art style is just immaculate. The animation's great.
Because in times past, when the Yao Yorozu no Kami descended
Everything
here,
about it is just perfect to me. Now, for the first comparison bit, we have
times past, when the Yao Yorozu
the mention
no
of the Yao Yorozu no Kami, which in my mind are the Honkai. If you know anything about Impact 3rd, the main antagonists of that game to a degree, being these entities of basically destruction of civilization. It, in all likelihood, is the direct comparison being made here.
They wrought death and disaster on this world and its people.
God. And then another thing to have here, the way Acheron in her form with the horns looks is very, very much in line with the design of one of the battlesuits for Raiden Mei in Impact 3rd. I'll maybe put up an image of it so you can see, but I won't get into the details of what that's about for spoiler reasons, but a connection between them for her being a equivalent.
World. Izumo splintered 70,033 blades.
Then really the main thing we get here, connecting the two, in my mind, is
the first was truth.
The 12 blades. As though they are not direct equivalencies, though they aren't just having them be the exact same things. Each blade pretty directly ties to the different Hershers from Impact 3rd, in the same order even. As the first was Truth, which was forged by the Sovereign of Revelation. This in coloration, style, and
It could teach
everything,
wolves the way of the law and create miracles
gives
through the
me
deconstruction of all
the
things.
vibe of the Hersher of Reason, which was the first Hersher, which already lines up our first one.
The second was Sky.
Then we have
forged by the
Sky,
eternal Xenon.
which Sky doesn't necessarily line up with Void, which is the second Hersher, but visually speaking, these black hole things are almost identical to the, like, black hole portal things that the Hersher of Void creates in Impact Third. Which, I mean, hell, it's just very direct with that. So that's another correct light connection.
It could form a barrier from the firmament and prevent the innumerable gods of misery from passing through. The third was Howl.
And then we have Howl,
lightning to rend.
which, able to summon lightning to rend the heavens. The third Hersher was Thunder, I believe. Or maybe it was Lightning. I'm honestly blanking right now. It's either Thunder or Lightning. That's my bad for forgetting. But, I mean, hell, this is a very direct connective point for that. So, 3 for 3 so far. And before we continue with that, I will just note, I find it interesting that it's killing a dragon. Maybe this is a Scion of Long or something, or maybe it's just some other dragon, or maybe it's a whole other thing. Who knows?
Divine punishment.
Just thought I'd mention that.
The fourth was Mist.
Then we have
able
Mist.
to break-
It's at this point where I get a bit more fuzzy on my memory of the exact order of the Hershers, as I haven't finished the story of Impact Third, but I've gone far enough that I know a lot of these. Mist is not the direct equivalent of Wind, which is what the fourth one, I believe, is, but aesthetically speaking, the sort of green wing-like aesthetic here, and
tear cloud with biting wind and rain.
the fact that it tears cloud with biting wind and rain, that's completely in line with that.
Was Frost.
Then we have Frost, which I believe the fifth Hersher was the Hersher of Frost or Ice, which, I mean, that's one of the most straightforward ones. But then it gets a little more complicated as the
sixth was Fate.
comparisons get a little
the
tougher.
restless cycle of life and death.
We have Fate, the endless cycle of life and death. The next one in Impact Third would be Sentience, which has some potential through lines with, like, Fate and cycles of life and death, and also the fact that it looks like it's actually two swords, almost. One probably representing life, one probably representing death. Also speaks to me in the fact of that, if you know anything about the Hersher of Sentience, they are sort of a weird dual thing in the sense of, with as little spoilers as possible, there's sort of the person that was before the Hersher of Sentience, then there's the Hersher of Sentience themselves, so that sort of duality element exists to a degree there, but it's a bit looser than the rest, but still. Still makes sense to me. Then there's Flare, with the next Hersher being Flame Scion, which, that lines up pretty well for me. Now, this is where it breaks down for me, of the fact that I just personally don't have the actual lore know-how of Impact Third to make calls just based on the names of these, given that we don't get any other description. As the last one I really know much about is the one that is Thought. That one still lines up for me, because in Impact Third that is Domination, which has a lot to do with manipulation of the mind, control, that kind of thing. And so I can see Thought lining up for that. It's after that which I don't know what exactly each of the next ones are. I only know tidbits that have been spoiled for me. But regardless.
Form, bind, maw. With those sentinels
but
seized on tomorrow's
the key thing with all of this is
victory after victory.
It paints
until
all of them were broken.
It paints a picture that Acheron's story and backstory is one of, not identical of course, but similar to Impact Third, but a darker version of it. The darkest timeline, if you will. As all of the blades were broken.
The price of every victory.
Everything is lost in the process, for even just the smallest victories.
That entirety was lost.
And
so Izumo splintered
in
12
the end,
sentinels and forged them into 2 bearers.
It gets brought down to 2 blades,
The first
or 2 bearers,
was Origin.
being Origin.
The second
and End.
Was End.
Which, if I understand the little tidbits I've learned about the, like, very late content of Impact 3rd Part 1, I believe the final 2 Hershers that ever appear in the storyline for Part 1 at least, I don't know anything about Part 2, is Origin and Finality. Which is interesting then that it ends with these 2. It sort of continues to line up with that in my mind.
The world forged 70,047.
Then here we just get a really,
and only one could save
really
Izumo.
cool sequence here, which I just love a lot. Now,
the road to salvation.
I don't actually recall who the Hersher of Origin is, so I don't know how that lines up with Acheron wielding this blade, but it still just continues to be a very interesting through line.
We pawned everything,
and
for the destruction of 2 worlds.
With this, we get to the very interesting thing
upon which the kami descended.
Of we have all these comparisons between the blades and the Hershers, but then we get to the end here.
Do you still remember why Izumo forged these blades?
Because of a lie.
Oh, God.
An end that never existed.
That line of, it was because of a lie, with nihility descending upon the worlds, is so beautiful to me. And I love,
the last blade is forged into.
I love that bit there with the broken blade of Origin, which then is referenced as life. Just a tear of blood landing on it, and it forges itself into a new blade, Acheron's blade, being the blade of Naught. And then, as she swings the blade, she turns into her, I guess, nihility form, as all of the history and hardships of this world get consumed by the nihility.
I knew this world was fleeting. And yet...
And that those end lines, oh God, they're so perfect. God. It's just so amazing. And it simultaneously works to hype me up massively for anything related to Acheron, while also really making me want to play Impact 3rd. To just see how more of this blends and connects. Because it's so good, it's so good, and there's clearly some kind of through line here. And it probably is just the fact that Acheron is a Raiden May XP, but I was amazed when I first saw this for how directly they tied everything together, almost. And on top of that, it's just on its own, amazing trailer that gets me every time by the end. Between the "it was all for a lie" and the and yet at the end, just something about those lines just breaks me. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna stop gushing about this one, and we will move on to the final Myriad Celestia trailer as of now, being If We Had Wings, Robin's Myriad Celestia trailer. And much like my Star Rail character trailer video, I have not seen this one yet. I once again was saving myself so that I could react to it. Took a little longer to get to than I was hoping, but we're getting to it now, and I'm very curious to see how this goes compared to her demo, or trailer, rather, that was basically just a music video. I'm much more curious to see what this one is like. Alright.
Thank you for tuning in to this interview.
Okay, her
As
music's
Miss Robin
in here
mentioned,
still.
her introduction to music came from her mother. During that disaster...
Fighting again?
Oh. Oh shit.
Don't be afraid. Look here. It's a bird. Look, a bird. I want to hear more of Miss Robin's story. Do you know her, Miss? Let me tell you all a secret. This bird knows Robin. It knows all about her. During that disaster, Robin couldn't hear anything except for the loud ringing in her ears.
Oh shit.
But she knew that her mother was singing to her. She could see her mother's lips moving. She could feel her mother's breath. You'll be safe and sound. She could hear that silent wish.
Aww.
One day, you'll step onto an even bigger stage. Even more people will hear you sing, and they'll sing with you.
Maybe someday.
No, they'll sing with both of us, brother.
Right, both of us.
Oh, wait a minute. I've seen that in the trailers.
She wanted to spread that wish through song. And weave in even more wishes. But behind the beautiful sounds, there were noises of disharmony. Sounds of every form encircled her.
Oh boy.
The gazes of many followed her.
Oh god. Wait, did that guy have a camera for it? No, okay, I think it was just holding the camera.
She thought about fleeing, but something always stopped her. Because the singer could never turn her back
Oh,
on her audience
shit.
or herself. The self that others protected, that wanted to protect others, that others forgave, that wanted to forgive others,
Yo!
that wanted to make her wishes come true, the self that wanted to make others' wishes come true. For every self, for every wish, she couldn't give up.
Hell yeah.
Miss, I also want to sing on stage and sing for Miss Robin. Can my wish come true? Of course it can. Let's start now. The songs you sing, she will absolutely love them. Thank you, Miss Robin. I want to be a doctor. I want to keep singing when I grow up. The fighting's almost over. Brother, our wish is slowly coming true.
This is the end of our interview. It is reported that Miss Robin has now left for Penacony. Dear friends, we hope to see you again on the planet of festivities.
Okay. Yeah. That's cute. That's great. God. Alright. It's interesting. It's about what I expected, but also...
Thank you for tuning in to this interview. As Miss
I
Robin
also
mentioned,
find
her
it
introduction to music
interesting
came from her mother.
how
During that disaster,
she's basically comforting some kids, probably orphans, in what seems like a war zone? Like, what is she doing here?
Look, a bird. I want to hear more.
Yeah. Huh.
It knows all about her.
Now,
During that loud ringing.
I didn't quite realize how
that her mother was
brutal
singing to her.
her
She
childhood
could see
was.
her mother's lips
I knew they
moving.
were like taken in
She
by
could feel her mother's breath.
the
You'll be
Dream Master and stuff. But
She could hear that silent wish.
I didn't realize that something like that exactly had
One
happened.
day, you'll step onto an even bigger stage. Even more people will hear you sing.
I can't
and they'll
get
sing
over
with you.
like actually innocent and childlike Sunday. It does not work in my brain. And then there's this thing, like the fact that, if I'm recognizing this correctly, this is the new like big boss from that was shown in the 2.2 live stream. I'm pretty sure it is, at least. It's being mentioned in the same words as Sunday joining Robin on stage. Interesting. Very interesting. It makes me suspicious for the rest of 2.2 story. Oh boy. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
She wanted to spread that wish through song.
Otherwise, though,
And even more wishes.
I say the biggest thing I'm taking from this is that the fame and stuff really does take a toll on her, as we sort of hear her doing like ads and stuff, and then here we have her in disguise being mistaken as, it looks like, a man, and that inevitably results in a big scandal because she's an idol, basically, and idol fans are terrible people who cannot take the sheer idea of their idol having someone they care about that isn't them. I really like the angle they're taking with her character.
The gazes of many followed her.
That she is very much burdened by all of this. And I gotta say, I love her disguise outfit. It's real fun. And yeah, no, okay, was right. This guy has a camera head. Now, what immediately that comes to me as is not as literally this person's head is a camera, but rather that Robin is sort of forced to view people as a camera at all times, in the sense of anyone looking at her will be judging her actions, will be scrutinizing her, potentially could be recording her. And it's just a very good visual for that, to get that across, especially in line with everything around this moment of her trying to escape the paparazzi and all the gossip and stuff.
She thought about fleeing, but something always stopped her.
But then we get to this bit of...
Because a singer could never turn her back.
Is being crushed under it, but she never is willing to, as she says, turn her back on her audience.
Or herself.
Because that would be turning her back on herself in her mind. And...
The self that others protected. I wanted to protect others.
God. And basically...
That others forgave.
Going against everything that was ever given to her by others. And that's a really interesting view of things, because it's a very hopeful and inspired way of thinking, in the idea that despite all of the bad surrounding her fame and what that means for her as a person, she continues doing it to honor those who have helped her and to help others in turn. Which I'm very curious to see if that view will survive the Penacony story. My guess is, more than anything, it'll probably be reaffirmed, but in a way that is far more defiant against things. Against the current state of Penacony. And depending on what happens with Sunday, maybe against her brother. But I don't know. And all this really is to say is it makes me incredibly excited to go and finish the 2.2 storyline and get that video out to you guys about that. So I think the last thing I want to say about this Myriad Celestia trailer, the final one for now, at least until we get Boot Hills in a few days, is why don't we have the Rockstar outfit? Give me the Rockstar outfit. I need it. She looks great in it. Oh, God. But yeah, with that, though, on that very eloquent thought, I will leave it here for today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. Leave me a comment if you have anything to say about my thoughts. And I hope to see you all in future videos. And have a great day. Bye!